First one's up, practical example. So this is from a film that I worked on last semester called Ovid, and this is an example of a fix-it-in-post type of correction. So this is something that's very specific to each set, so it's kind of hard, so it's good that you see an example that's personal. So with this scene, what was supposed to be happening was these three cars should have been all facing in the same direction because they all kind of had pulled in one at a time, whereas that far right car, you see it's facing the wrong way, and that was actually because the cars had to be jumped, so that's why it happened, and no one realized that the car had to be turned back around. So that's a mistake. Whoops, how do we fix it? So immediately on set, the first thing I did was I talked to the director. I was the visual effects guy for this, and I was like, simple, we just have to go back to the original spot and take a clean plate. Does anyone know what that is? What do you think?
Just like a shot, like without anything there?
Kind of, yeah. It's more of a concept. So a clean plate it's just a clean plate of what you're working with, but you need it to kind of have the things you want it to change about the shot. So, yeah. So in this instance, so what do we have right now that is incorrect based on what I told you? Just call it out. You don't have to raise your hand.
Cars aren't facing that way.
Cars facing the wrong way. So now, what can we do in person while we're still on set to fix that? There's a couple options. You can either retake the shot, or instead of retaking the shot, which a lot of times costs a lot of money, costs a lot of time, it costs the actors time, and everyone's. To avoid that, what we did was we actually just flipped the car around and then retook the shot, but only for about 10-15 seconds. And the reason we did that was because we can take just the one car and overlay the image over top of the other car and turn it around and then blend it in and make it look like it didn't happen. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of different kind of basic tools that we're using in that technique, but the basic idea is that you're just compositing. You're putting one layer over another to achieve an effect. So you'll see the original right here, and all I have underneath is the final version, but, oh, no.
Can you show me the final version?
Yeah, right here. As soon as I bring it up. So you'll see very quickly, car is flipped around.
Gotcha.
And all this in one of the tools I guess I used was masking. Does anyone familiar with masking? I'm going to show you exactly what it is. So, does anyone want to define it? Masking? Chaucer? Or not Chaucer? Sorry.
Masking is when you create a polygon around an object to basically say, like, cut this image or cut this object out, and pull it back or get rid of it.
Yeah, so you're defining an area for the computer to tell you tell the computer what to do with that area. So, for instance, if I take, to get rid of the final, and now I have this clip right here, which is the incorrect, so this is the wrong version, I would take a pen tool, and I could just draw a shape, and if I click and drag, you'll see me get these Bezier points like David talked about in the previous week, where you can make the shape, or make the circle, or whatever shape you want to make, just like with graphics. And I would just draw around, and then when I get back to the end, you'll see the point has this little circle. So you can see it doesn't have anything next to the point, and then when I go right over the end, you see it has a little circle. That means you're going to close the loop, you're going to close the polygon. So we're going to close that, and instantly you see that it masked, or for right now, you're seeing what's within the shape. So do you see your settings for your mask? If you go to the file, it's the drop-down settings, you'll see masks only appear when there is a mask on the layer. So under masks, you'll see mask 1, and you can verify it's the correct mask by looking at the color. So you'll see this is orange, or a yellowish orange, whatever, and that's what the point is. Whereas if you actually started another mask, you would see it's a different color. Whereas now I have two masks on the same layer, and in order to get rid of it, I would have to click on it and press delete, just like that. But then with that, so you'll see next to mask 1, which is the one we're working with, you'll see this drop down that says none, add, subtract, intersect, light, and darken difference. And every single thing does something different, and it all is in reference to the mask. So right now we are adding what is being cut out to the inside, versus if we do subtract, it's going to do the opposite, and so on. They all kind of do separate things. These ones you have to kind of have more specific situations, but add and subtract are the basic ones. And now once I have this, you'll see, and this is on the incorrect version, so I would actually have it to subtract because I want everything but that car, because that's the incorrect car. And I would go to my other clip, and make sure it's visible. And then, oh, that's because, why is that black, actually? Why is it black? It should be, hold on.
Yeah, I don't get it, Nico. What
Trying to figure it out.
Hear my voice though?
So, let's just retry it. Maybe I'm missing something. Shouldn't be. Maybe.
Who cares? I'm the only important person here.
Is that just a black piece of footage?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm thinking.
Check your timeline, zoom in a little bit.
I'm gonna click
When
on
is
it.
Mike ever nice?
Alright, so I guess this is.
Black.
So if you're actually working with the footage here, the file called PPPE00201, that one's actually, I think, a black image for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why. That one was footage original. Oh, no, now it's. Alright. Alright, well. Now it's working. Okay, so as I was saying, before we had this layer with the mask on it, which it still does. And now, if I have it masked out with add or subtract or whatever it is, you'll see it cuts out that shape and we're just putting that small car over top of the other car. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Take one puzzle piece, put it on top of the other. Now, what if it's like kind of fuzzy around the edges? Is there a way to kind of like blur that edge?
Yeah, so let's look at how you blur this in. So let's just say the mask we made, it's a bit sharp. So if I just solve this, you'll see this hole we made here is it's actually it's pretty smooth, but it's still a little jagged. You see, so that if there's another image that is not exactly over top of that matches up, it can look a little awkward and it can ruin your effect. So to feather that out, literally, under the settings for mask, you'll see mask feather, and it's just as simple as clicking and dragging in the direction and going up, and you'll see how quickly and easily it kind of fades. And usually a good rule of thumb for me when I'm doing any kind of simple compositing with just 2 layers is I'll take the one and feather the mask, and then I'll feather the other one as well, so they kind of feather into each other and blend very nicely. Cool? Like that? So it's kind of like yes?
What's compositing?
Compositing is taking 2 layers or more and putting them over top of each other, and you're compositing an image, trying to make it look real. Yeah, I don't have the actual definition, but that's what compositing is to me. Would you like to provide an actual definition? Oh, good. Yeah, you're taking layers and putting them together, and that's compositing. And then it gets more advanced. Does this make sense? Like, understand why you would have to do that kind of on set to talk about it? Because if you're on set and you don't realize that, later on, you're going to be sitting there looking at your footage, you're like, none of this lines up, none of this matches, the script or the director's vision or whatever it is. You have to just be cognizant of the fact that things can change, be on your feet, and if you're working on the set, be ready to kind of take action and say, we need to redo this or we need to reset this up because it's not going to work or it's not going to look good.
So is this just like most often done on a tripod shot?
No, it can be on anything.
It's easier, yeah, that's what I assume. But you can't do it on a movie shot.
No, you can. You can do it on anything really. It's just the more motion, the more difficult it is.
So with the moving shot, you'll basically be going frame by frame, keep rotoscoping, and then adjusting the positioning of the mask in the frame to
Yeah.
make sure that.
So that's when you get into more of a complicated kind of fix. But we're just kind of looking at stationary on a tripod shot. And the reason why that worked really well was because I could just line up exactly where the tripod legs were from the previous shot and just say, when you retake that the best you can. And actually, even if you're off, if David's where we actually shot it, I'm where we reshot it, I can just scale up the shot or scale it down and it'll still fit the same dimensions that it should. So that's the practice, yeah?
So like
in terms of when you do this in the editing process, is it like before you start putting together the timeline in Avid or Premiere?
No,
Or
so
is
I
it-
would highly recommend for your sanity and time that you do anything as far as visual effects that need to be done immediately. You can, but I would do it immediately after the final cut is done. Because if you're working with people and they're changing the cut, they might not even use the same clips you use. So when you really are doing effects for someone, they should give you a final locked cut, and really you should get the files. You don't even need the audio. You're just working with visuals. So yeah, don't really do stuff too early because you're gonna do more work than you need. And,
jumping across
part of the job, part of the skill in this is recognizing where you need to cut corners. Doing it again much smarter, but don't wait till last minute. Just wait till you have it. All good on that? Alright, so let's move into more fun ones. Well, not more fun ones. The problem with doing practical effects is they're really painful. It's a simple mistake, you know, just be like, oh, the car shouldn't turn around. If we had recognized that in the moment, we could have just switched around and kept going, but because it was afterwards, it's negligence on our part. It just messed up.
It was one.
So that was because the middle car was left in the exact same orientation as the vision.
Yeah, so you'll see the original clip was this one. And you'll see the car was facing this car.
Right.
That was literally just because they had to use the one car to jump the other one because it had died. The battery was on.
So if you didn't have that car in the same position, you would instead just go to the, like you would basically outline that car and
You
not
outline
include
both
it in the
of them,
mask.
yeah.
Yeah, you would like draw that edge between foreground and background.
And the best part, a benefit of doing it with a shot like this, where it's stationary as well as it's something that is easily mimicable and it's small. You know, even though a car is big, you can just take a picture of it and put it in as long as you photoshopped and made it look correct.
Gotcha.
So yes, you only need one frame of this car in the correct position to actually correct it. Does that make sense to everyone? You don't need a video that's the same length. You just need one picture and then just stretch the picture over the time.
What would you have done? Like you mentioned, there was like the price tag on the fishing pole.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that actually. We're gonna show that right at the end. But yeah, so that's the process I'd go through for the very simple but kind of painful thing to achieve. And these happen all the times on sets. They're painful because it's mistakes. All right, let's go muzzle flash. So right here, I have a gun, a person holding a gun, and let's watch it. It's gonna have to render for a second, but.
Hey David, what's rendering?
Rendering is when basically the computer interprets the footage so that it can play it back at full speed. So there's RAM previews, which is when it'll load it into your computer's memory. There are also certain kinds of rendering that create files and play it back from that in live time. So the green bar you see above the top of the footage is rendered footage. It'll play back at full speed as long as your computer sets it up to date, which is usually not a problem. So any of the green bar up there has been processed by the computer basically and is ready to be viewed and run on.
Nico,
Yay, what's up?
if you want to make the comp length or the work area as long as one clip, just click on the clip you want and do IBON.
Click on the clip and press IBON.
Yeah, it'll trim the work area to be exactly as long as the clip.
Oh yeah, I have. All right, okay. Let's try it. So we click on the clip and then IBON.
Yep.
All right, IBON.
Yeah, you already had it, but like that's a shortcut.
Oh, you're saying. All right. So all he was saying there was, if you guys see this kind of highlighted area above my work on my layers, that is just my workspace, so that when I am doing any kind of rendering, so I'm just pressing play, it will only go in between those two bars. And I achieved that as a shortcut by going to where I wanted it to start. Say it's right here, and I press in. I as in, or I'm sorry, that would take me to in. Is on After Effects is different. In After Effects, it is B for begin and then N for end. So just B and N right next to each other, and you'll see it does that. But he was saying some elongated shortcut that you didn't.
Yeah, now if you hit IBON, it'll do it.
IBON will fix
IBON.
your explanation of IBON.
He did it. IBON. So you see how that readjusted?
So
That's quick.
set the
Quick.
beginning point to the end. Set the
Um,
beginning.
All right, let's try and play this now.
Is there dinner time? 6:30. Easy back.
So you'll see we have the footage is not full playback. This relates back to that rendering issue where it can't always keep up with the live process because the quality or whatever it
Since
is.
we have the screen recording going, the computer's RAM is being maxed out right now, so
Yeah.
we can't play back at full speed.
But
What's the suggested RAM for After Effects? 8? Just like
I think that would
On a low
usually
s-
cover you for most cases. Depends on the footage you're working with. If you're working with like a 4K file, like the clip we'll show
Yeah.
tonight, that's gonna take a lot more to handle. But also you can, oh yeah, so that's right, about to mention. You can-
Yep. This guy right here, this is your quality. If you click on it, it goes, nope.
And so that's just for the preview, so that's not gonna change the actual quality of the clip, but that's just gonna change the quality of what's being shown in this window. So it'll be quicker for your computer to process things.
Yeah, it's playback quality. So you can set it to auto and it'll just automatically do it for you, or you can have it automatically set to a setting. Alright, so now hopefully this will play. So she has a bunch of lines. And then eventually leans back, gun pops out, pulls the trigger, end the clip. Okay. So right now, what do we have to work with? My task is to create a muzzle flash. What am I working with that clip? Do I need the whole thing? Do I need a part of it? What do I need? Anyone tell me? Just the very end, correct. So if I'm making a muzzle flash, the only time I need anything is just when I need that muzzle flash going. So that's going to be right after the trigger was pulled. So you'll see back here. So let's just start it right when the gun comes out. So I'll hit B, and then zoom in. There's this little slider down here. This is your zoom, or you can hold Option and scroll down on these mice up on normal mice.
You can also use plus and minus.
Yes, you can. So get it how you want it, and then all right. So yeah, now we just need the ending. So we need basically where I just highlighted in here, and hopefully this will like play at full speed or close to.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what do we need? Who's made a muzzle flash before? What is a muzzle flash?
Fire a gun and the smoke from the flash.
So okay, so that's one thing. Smoke. What else is a muzzle flash? There is light. Anything else?
Fire.
Sometimes fire, depending on what it is.
Loud bang.
Loud bang. Well, that's sound, so don't worry about that. We're just visual effects. Yeah. So smoke.
After.
Yeah. What comes after a trigger's pulled? Really think about it, and think about it in the context of this scene. What should you be seeing when that trigger's pulled?
A shell. No wait, that's a revolver.
So you're getting on something though. So the first thing I had to do was look at the gun. I had to look up what kind of gun this was to know how it shot. I looked up a video of how it shoots. This is a cop gun, but once I knew that it's a revolver, I know that bullets aren't going to fly out, which eliminates the need for stock footage of a bullet flying out or taking a bullet and recording it myself and putting it in or whatever. So I just need basically the flash, the actual spark of the gunpowder, right? What comes after a gunshot?
The bullet.
Technically, yes, the bullet, but what did you say? Smoke, exactly. So you need the aftermath. You need the cause and effect. You need to tell a story in 2 or 3 frames. Does that make sense? So you have to take something and make it look very quick but very believable, and it also a good number for how long a muzzle flash should be, because usually our eyes, it looks just like a 1 second thing, but the muzzle flash is actually a gun being fired. So there's a lot of course of events. So you have to pick the ones that look the most realistic at big enough of an interval that it'll be believable to our eyes. So with that in mind, the first thing I did was I found a muzzle flash. So you'll see, where is it at? There. Nope, still not it. This was it. Here it is. Okay, so you'll see in this clip I've got there it is. So this I got from Video Copilot, which is the same people that provided the Saber plugin, which we're doing next. And this is part of their Action Essentials, so it's just like a pack of a bunch of different stock footage and high quality that you can use and take, and it comes on this alpha channel, and that's what this checkerboard is. So when something has a checkerboard in After Effects or in Adobe in general, really, a lot of other programs, it means that there's an alpha channel. So just like you know how there's red, green, blue, RGB, there's also A. So A is the alpha, A is the transparency meter. So, or not the meter, the transparency layer. So when you look at transparency right now, there's nothing there. But if if it didn't have the alpha embedded in it, if it doesn't have an alpha, it would look just like this. So if you exported something without an alpha, it's just gonna be black. But when something's not actually there with an alpha, it actually isn't there. So there's nothing there. But that's what this little checkerboard check down here is. It actually just turns it off, on and off for your preferences. So I brought in this muzzle flash you see right here. And you'll see it's basically an explosion. Very quick explosion, no build up. And then a lot of smoke afterwards, and the fire kind of recedes, and the smoke carries through. Okay, so now we have our muzzle flash, right? And now we know where the muzzle flash has to go. But now, does anyone, let me kind of very obviously, can anybody see the issue with, so say I have my muzzle flash. Okay, so she pulls the trigger, I'm going frame by frame, you're holding command and using the arrow keys. One by one I'm looking at her finger, so you'll see she's kind of squeezing and pulls it there. So that the first frame it moves really is kind of the gist of where it's fine to put it. So now, alright, so I drag my muzzle flash in, drag it in, let's just say right here. So is that look good? What's wrong with it?
I love it.
It's not aligned with the gun.
Yeah, it's not. So what's the obvious thing that's wrong with it right from the get-go? If I can play it again if it'll help.
It's too big.
It's like a second.
So the timing's a little off. So these are things that you're looking at while you're going through your footage, going through your work, seeing the progress of how it's going. You're seeing the timing, you're seeing this everything. You have to be cognizant of it. So first of all, the timing is off.
Probably too small.
It's very too small. That's exactly what I was getting at. So you'll see when I'm actually selected on this, you'll see these blocks, and that represents your border. All right, so to fix that, to make it bigger, I can just hit S for scale when you're on this, or to access it, you can hit the drop-down arrow under muzzle flash 001. And under transform, you'll see scale, and you can just drag that up. I forget the actual ratio, what's the perfect number, but you just have to get it to a size that looks more believable. So now, all right, so you said the size is wrong, you said it didn't follow the gun, you said like it has to go where the gun actually shoots, so let's back up. And go frame by frame. Oh, already shot. So actually what I was looking for when I first was finding the trigger was I didn't go forwards, I went backwards because I was seeing when her first move happened from pulling the trigger. So you'll see she's coming down, nope, coming back in with it, sorry. And goes out with it, and pretty much bang right there. See how that kind of goes from a little blurry to really blurry? That's a tell for me as there's a lot of motion in there, and that's a key point that you can use. So I have that, so now I'll line this up, just like you told me. Let's see. So all right, so besides the time being off a little there, what's the problems? Anyone seen the issue with hand? Besides the speed and location of it.
You can see the smoke at the top frame, like at the straight edge.
Yeah, that's an issue. Anything else?
It's not following with the gun.
It's not following with the gun. So now you see, you can't just put it in the clip because it actually has to move with the gun as she's firing it backwards. Okay, so that's when you get into tracking. So tracking in any effects program, for the most part, works similarly. They're just all kind of different. So in After Effects, It's located on the side here under tracker, under your settings. And you should all be in the default view, just to kind of keep it easier. But you'll see, I'm not going to go through a specific tracking tutorial here, but the basic gist of it is when you take a source file, so we take the footage of the gun that we have, and we hit track motion. So we're telling the computer that we want it to track motion. We're going to get this little tracking point here, which is kind of hard to see once you zoom in. You'll see there's one box and then two boxes. So the outer box, it's two boxes, yeah. The outer box is where the computer is going to look for what is on the interior box. So the interior box, I forget the actual names. Do you remember? I don't remember the actual names.
I don't remember.
Either way, this whatever is in this, the computer is trying to match up every frame, and it'll check every frame in this big of an area. So you'll notice that this can't be any smaller than that, because it's not going to search for less on area than it has, and that this will infinitely expand with that. Just
Now,
kind of-
Nico, why do we track? Like, what's tracking going to do? Why don't we just line it up ourselves?
Well, you can animate it, but it's a lot easier because the computer will do a lot of the math for you, and it'll find the points that you need, and it'll do it probably better.
That's a decision you can make also. If it's something you're tracking for a couple frames, like in this case, you might not need to do that. And
Sure.
It might be a little long with the smoke trailing off. If something's only a few frames, then it might be easier to just quickly move those positions. But if you're tracking something over a couple seconds of footage or even longer, this can definitely be a viable option.
Were you just asking what the two boxes were?
Just
I
the
was
names
explaining
of
that.
them. There's
Is there a
specific
Oh, the
name
name,
for
yeah,
it.
yeah.
The selection area and the search area.
Yeah. So selection area is where you're selecting what you want to find. Your search area is where it's going to search for it. So now that we
How do I
have,
know what to look for?
what's
How
that?
do I know where to start searching? Like, what's a good place to start tracking?
So immediately once you make the size of your select and your search area, if you click within the search area or within the selection area, you'll notice that it gets really big. And if you move around, you're looking at very specific pixels. So for me, or really for anybody, you just have to make a decision on where you want to track. So the best things for tracking are high contrast, low saturation, and usually in one of the channels like RGB. But blue is the least contrast, correct? Okay, blue is the most noisy. Green or red, see, tracking's big. It's one, but anyway, so I would pick the front edge of the gun here because that's where the smoke's going to go, and I'm defining to the computer just by where this little X is, or plus. It's a plus. It's an X when I hold it. It's a plus when I let go. So once I have that set, I'll just go. I won't go into the details of it, but I'll track it. And you notice it was way off. So it didn't follow the gun like I was planning. So I need to undo that and do it again and again and again until I get it perfect. And actually, even if it's one off, I can go back and fix it manually. But
So basically, you can create multiple tracking points so that it kind of gets an idea of where everything in the scene is moving. That allows you to have things like not just tracking position, but tracking how these points relate to each other, which involves rotation and scale and things like that. So adding multiple tracking points will make the computer work harder to do it, but it'll make your results a little more accurate.
and then now once we have a finished track that we like and it looks good, or as far as it sticks with the object we're tracking, then we can then take that data, take the data of where those points are in X and Y, and apply it to our clip, to the muzzle flash, and you can attach it to it. But now the next problem you would encounter, because I've done this, so I know what the problems were, was once you do that, then the smoke is actually falling with the gun. So then you have to add in smoke separately to kind of disguise the fact that the original smoke from the gun blast is moving with it. Because the smoke wouldn't move with it, so you have to do it as a separate element. Does that resonate? Does that make sense? I can try and show it to you, but I can just show you the final version instead if you'd like to see what I kind of came up with. So you'll see.
Go over how to apply the tracking data.
Oh yeah, I can. So what?
I'll leave it all.
Yeah, I'll just do. Well, no, I can do the clip.
Right, but do you just want to show using it all so you can keep track data?
So a null object is a object that is null. It's nullified, so it does not exist, but it's just a placeholder for us to use in places of saving tracking information or whatever it may be. So it literally is nothing, but at the same time, it's this thing, just a little square. So what we can do is, again, we're selecting our source footage for where the motion is occurring, and then we're going to, and actually you'll see,
The other footage. Not the muzzle flash.
No, yeah, no. If you're clicked off, you'll see that these options are grayed out because you're not selected. So you have to make sure you're selected on a source file, which is our footage here. Track motion. We're gonna define our boundaries and everything, all that good stuff. Set it to where we want it. Let's put it on the front of the gun. So like you'll see the difference between earlier I had gotten this. So this isn't a great edge to track because you'll see how soft it is. It's there's not jagged lines, there's not white on black or black on white. Really, the more contrast you have, the more the computer's gonna be like, oh, okay, I recognize that, just like you would be able to. But the computer does it much faster and more accurately. So I'll pick a more contrasty point, like right here, where there's a dark line next to a lighter gray, and hopefully, if I track forward, once I so this goes into different settings of what that can do, and as David said, rotation gets involved when you're doing more three-dimensional track or multiple tracking points at once. But for now, we just want position because we just want where the gun is moving in two-dimensional space. So now when you edit, so now what are we going to do with that data? Once we take that data, we're going to hit Edit Target, and you can select what you want the data to be applied to. So we want to apply it to the null object, or you would apply it, in this case, to the muzzle flash. And you'll press OK. You'll do your track. So again, it was off. It did not get what we wanted it to. But let's just say it did. Say it was a good track. I'll apply it. I want the X and Y coordinates of that. And now you'll see the null object. Well, it's not going to move. You're not going to be able to see it, but you'll see if I went into the settings and everything, it has all these tracking these keyframes, which are the animated points that the tracker gave to the null object.
You can actually scroll through it.
Yeah. So you'll see the null object's slightly moving back with the tracking points that we had, but obviously it wasn't with the gun. And yeah, does that make sense? Any questions on that?
How do you create the null object again?
Null object is just like any other layer in this. So if you go to Layer, New, it's going to be null object right here, or there's some shortcut you could try and decipher. Make sense?
So you could have applied this directly to the clip in this case since you're only using this tracking data in one place, but it's usually going to have it use the null objects because it lets you reuse the tracking data if you have multiple things you need to track within the same shot instead of having to like redo it onto each clip.
Yeah, to get a better track, you could have widened the search area.
I could have.
So it's looking in that outer box, it's looking on the tracker. It's looking for where that same image information is on the very next frame. So if that outer box isn't wide enough, it's not going to catch that image on the next frame.
Which is probably part of what the problem is here. The gun is recoiling really quickly, moving a lot in each frame. And also the blurriness makes it harder to track. But those were a couple of things that might have affected this shot.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that goes in everything. So planning ahead, doing a tracking marker even for the gun. I could have put a white little X even in the shot, and then obviously you have to get rid of that later, but it saves you the time of doing the manual keyframing of the gun smoke or flash. Yeah. So does that make sense, everyone? That's a muzzle flash. That's it's more than just putting a frame or two of explosion on a clip. You have to think about the velocity of where the bullet's going, where the gun's going to fly back, how it's going to fly back. Another issue I think you brought up was the smoke that's in the muzzle flash. You're right; it gets cut off. You kind of gets cut off on the edge. So how can we fix that? Well, one solution that I came up with was if you feather the entire edge. So if you make so in addition to drawing mask, you can just take the shape tool, and as long as you're selected on it, it'll treat it as a mask shape or whatever you have it set to between these two settings. And I can immediately go down into my settings for the mask and feather it. So you'll see the top of the smoke there. Everyone kind of see it kind of fading in and out. That's just how it's another quick way that I achieved kind of fixing that issue. So it's a constant going back and forth of fixing an issue, finding an issue, really, until all the problems are gone.
Did you draw a new flash? Did you muzzle flash? Because it doesn't look like the one that was there.
Is there? I'd have to take a look at that. I'm not sure. I can't say without seeing it.
But did you use that stock footage from?
Oh yes.
Okay.
If anything, the only reason it would be different was because I morphed it as far as maybe color, size, or how I changed it. Because that's just maybe I wanted something different. I can't remember at the moment right now. But that's just muzzle flash basics, and yeah. Last thing I wanted to do was
Actually, I just want to add
Go
one more thing there. So
What's up,
you have to be really, you have to be really aware of the environment in which something is going on here too. I know one thing Nico had mentioned that he did add to this muzzle flash shot for Ovid was a little bit of a flash reflection in the car window. Little details like that are things that can help really sell something, and it'll go by unnoticed almost 100% of the time, but that's a good thing. That means you aren't noticing that it's a fake effect. So adding a little illumination on the car window back there is something that would happen if a gun flashed right next to it. So things like that are good things to keep in mind.
I just wanted to show you the final version. Yep. So you'll see very quickly it has the flash, the recoil, it sticks with it, and then it's pretty hard to tell this quickly, but if you look at the window, you kind of see it flash for a second. Yeah, I can try to slow it down. Whoop.
Doesn't matter.
Quick time 7 doesn't make it so amazing. It's an image.
Even if I can just. So you'll see we go through. I have 1, 2, basically 2 or 3 frames of the flash, and then I have moved back. And you'll see I kind of have the smoke there right afterwards, and the flash you actually can't see. Yeah, this might not have been the final, but really the flash I was talking about was I put on this window, this seatbelt kind of thing here, her hand, anything that it would make sense that you would see it and where you would see it. That's it. And go to lightsaber real quick. So, first of all, does everyone who wanted to install it installed it and like had any issues with it? Sounds good. So this is a clip that I have. So I did a lightsaber film for my freshman year CP1 project. And this is that's the final.
Can you show us what we're looking to do?
Yeah, so this is the final version. That's why I don't want to show the final yet. It's being wonky with this footage, I think. There is a mask on it. There it is. Thank you. Nope, I just put another one on it. Be very careful where you click in After Effects. Yep, I see that. Okay, now we're good. So this is the footage we're working with. So that's it. It's just a one big swipe across the screen. That's the lightsaber. That's one of the clips from it. And now the way this works is, first of all, I really hope this has a saber on it, doesn't it? Oh. Find out. So if you hadn't found it yet, it's located in your effects and presets, and it's just called saber. So you'll see right here, saber effect. All right. So now, while there might not be as much to go into lightsabers as muzzle flash, as far as like smoke and everything, you can still put a lot into it that will add to it, and you won't actually notice it if you're watching it, but we notice it because we do it. So the main thing is just making sure the lightsaber works. So originally, back in the day, lightsabers, how they were done were, it was 4-point garbage matting, which means it's basically making a mask of the shape of the lightsaber for every frame of just that color of like whatever lightsaber is. So it'd be like, imagine just a big block of blue lightsaber color and just cutting that out for every frame that's seen. So if you can imagine, and also, and then I probably should mention, this was done by hand. It wasn't done by a computer because they didn't have computers to do it. So if you can appreciate that, how easy what we're about to do is, basically, all you have to do for this version of lightsaber in modern day is you have to put the lightsaber onto something. So does everyone understand what a plugin is, or does anyone not understand what a plugin is? Plugin for After Effects? Okay, so a plugin is just a third-party download from anywhere, really. A lot of people make them. It's a common thing, and you can buy them or you can get them for free. So the plugins, this one, Video Copilot, is free, or is the Saber plugin, and it's just a third-party plugin that adjusts it makes a new effect, I guess, for After Effects. It changes After Effects in some way. Basically, it's a simple way to do it. So all Saber does is it adds a Saber option. So you have to apply the effect to a layer always. You can't just have an effect. So I'm going to make a new, really, it could be solid, shape layer, null, it can be really anything, but I'll just do solid. And this is just going to be the Saber. So you'll see we have this block. And then to apply our lightsaber tool, you can double click on Saber or drag and drop it onto the footage. And now we have a lightsaber, right? Now obviously the problem is there's some black. So does anyone have any idea how we can fix that? If you think Photoshop, I'll give you a hint.
We've been talking about masks, would that work?
It could, but the problem with doing that is I'm not going to be able to mask or at least get the feather correctly for this fade off in the black. I'm not going to be able to do it. It's just going to be a hard cut, so it wouldn't look as good. So blending modes, if you guys remember that. They're in Photoshop, they're in After Effects. I'm pretty sure they're even in Premiere in some areas. But blending modes are that little drop down right next to your thing, but I don't have it. So you actually have to hit this little button. It's pretty obscure, but it's toggle switches and modes. You toggle that, you'll see this mode option appears. And under mode, you'll see all these different things that do a lot of different fun things you can have fun with. Or you can just press screen, and screen basically gets rid of black, and that's what it does.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, that's one way to
There's
say
a
it.
mathematical expression for each one, but
Yeah.
we don't have to go into the details.
Yeah, I don't want to explain what she's going to do, but
Everyone's sort of blog post going into all the
Yeah,
details.
I did.
yeah. So if you want more details on those, you can ask Jeremy, or you can just do this. So now what we have is the black is gone. We have our lightsaber. We have the glow and thing, and we have these two circle target things right here. So there's one on the top, one on the bottom tip, and these are just going to be your control points. So it basically takes that 4-point garbage cutout and turns it into 2 points and makes one set as the start and one set as the end. So when you're doing this, one key is to make sure you keep the start and the end correctly, like kind of positioned. So the start is the start at the hand, and the end is the end. So if you are switching them back and forth, your lightsaber is going to be like flipping around and doing tricks and stuff, so it's not going to look good. So the biggest key with that is if you look under the effects here, or the way to do that, I should say, excuse me, is if I look under core start and core end, you'll see the positions and you'll see these buttons. If you actually click it and just click, it'll move that one, or you can just drag it around, and now I can see, okay, core start is this one. So first thing I guess I gotta do is find where lightsaber is. So you have to find any frame that has any bit of lightsaber basically, because no fake lightsaber can exist with real lightsaber. So you basically just go frame by frame, and I don't see it there, but I kind of see it there, so I guess I'd start it there. And I will take my start. I will position it down here. And so it actually goes off the screen, but the good thing is you can just kind of cheat it and put it off screen and line it up how you think it should look. And then once you have the first set, then you're going to start animating this. So you could do it with a tracker. You could do it, in a more machinist way. But the best way to do it, the best way to make sure it looks great, is by doing it by hand, unfortunately. So you just press these stopwatches. If you remember from Premiere, it's the universal kind of Adobe sign for start animating. So now the computer knows that for the core start and the core end, with these checked, that we're going to start animating. So any changes that happen on any other frames will create a new keyframe. So if you go down here and look into...
You should be aware that when you press that stopwatch, it creates a new keyframe wherever the playhead is in the timeline right there, with whatever the current values are for that core start and core end.
This is the playhead, by the way.
Sorry, yeah, the playhead is just your little,
It's your
where
scrubber.
you are, kind of scrubber.
Yeah, scrubber. So just to kind of give you a visual of that, if I actually go down into the drop bar of Saber, you'll see all the settings just like these ones right here. And except next to core start and core end, you'll notice right under the playhead, I have these two little diamonds. Those are keyframes. That's the start of the keyframe. So any action I take afterwards in any other frame, so say I move my Saber. There. So anytime that there is a Saber, these points. I mean, there we go. So I will adjust it for the frame, how it changes. So I'll go frame by frame, moving the start, and then you'll see right under my playhead, it created a new keyframe, just for the one. So you go 2 by 2, start and end, fixing it every frame, making it match up. And once you have the basic animation down of the 2 points, then you get to play around with the glow, play around with the color, play around with the different types of how it flickers, how it sparks, how it they do the sound design, do all that stuff. But you have to make sure that your animation's good. So the first issue I would say with, let's just cut ahead, I guess. And actually, right here, let's just say right here, the problem is that it's not the same width. The sabers are not the same width. So I'll look under my settings, under customize core, and you'll see all different kinds of things. Start size, start offset, start roundness, yada yada. So I'll go to start size, because that's what I want. I'm on the start, and I'm just gonna bump it up. And keep kind of playing with it. It's still getting wider, still might not be what I want, so I might have to keep looking around. Look under flicker, look under distortion. There's a lot of settings in this plugin, and that's kind of the point. They want it to be customizable to everyone. Core, sorry? Core sets. Oh, I didn't understand that as English. Yeah, core size, here we go, 3. Yeah, so core size and then start size also affect. But I'll basically just make that go through, and also I can keyframe how the start size. Every single different setting within this can be animated. So every single thing is customizable. And the other thing is, this isn't just for lightsabers. There are, so if you go to core type under customize core, you can see, nope, that wasn't it. Preset. Select, here we go. So under preset, right under saber, the first option, there's all these. So if you want it to be a soft smoke, there you go. If you want it to be, yeah, there's Ghostbuster, like some Ghostbuster kind of beams. So this is a great tool, not just for making lightsabers, but for making fire, like kind of like some like fire effects, like kind of a portal. You can make lightsaber swords.
Use it for
neon signs, laser beams, and all kinds of beams and light effects. And there's a lot of other things you can do with this. Like you can make text out of like kind of like a lightsaber writing with this tool as well. That's another aspect of it. But once you go through and you have your animation down, you have how it looks down, you have the color, how it is everything. Then you go through, and the next thing that I would do would be look for an issue with. So I'll just use an example. So imagine this is my lightsaber, okay? I'm swinging around, I'm fighting with David, and he throws some dust or something in my face, and I go like this, right? Now, if this is behind me, what's gonna happen if I put my keyframe, or if I put my start and end here behind where I am, if the camera's directly here? What's gonna happen?
Lightsaber's gonna be in front of you, right? Like the glow will be
Yeah, 'cause
on
I'm-
top of your body.
Yeah, so if this is a lightsaber and I'm in front of it like this, it shouldn't be, correct? Because otherwise you're gonna see a lightsaber, it shouldn't be. So I don't know if there's an example in this clip. Actually, yes, there is. I lied. So when he comes up behind his head, there's an example of this right there. So that part of the lightsaber shouldn't be seen right through his head, right? Otherwise, it's going to cover his head. It's going to not look good at all. So you still would do the animation probably for that and align it to the best you could. And then what you can do is mask it out. So you make another mask, cut out his head for all the frames that it intersects with it, and then turn it to off. You would do subtract from the lightsaber mask, and then or from the layer, and it would look correct. So I tried to export the one, but it wouldn't work. So I'll just all I can show you is the final. Just an example of what mine looked like. So here we go. So there's obviously some color, and I put black bars on it. You get the gist. So you kind of just see it sticks with it, goes behind his head and is cut out, and comes through and it cuts, and that was just the scene. So yeah, that's what my final version was like. And the way I did this project was I took all of my clips, which were individualized, so it was probably about 30 or 40 clips, and I had to go through individually and do the lightsaber for each of them. And you had to keep it consistent, so I would copy and paste the saber effect to kind of save time, but it takes a long time. There's about 3,000 frames that day. So lightsaber is definitely a tedious task, but it looks really awesome when you put a lot of work in it. So that's really the gist of just kind of these 3 basic effects we did. I wanted to show you what kind of things you can do and kind of make sure you understood that there's a lot more that goes into visual effects as far as what you have to think practically, as well as what you have to do in rehearsal when you're doing these things and breaking them down. Because every single task is another challenge, and you just kind of have to. That's the fun of it, learning how to do new stuff.
Cool. So.
And this is more practical. We're going to take a look real quick at the more practical effects.
Yeah, so I mentioned last week when we were talking about potential topics that Professor here, Jason Harrington, is working on a live action film. And he had a shot that needed a little bit of visual effects work done, a little practical effects, so he passed it off to me so that we could discuss it, look over it, see what we would kind of do in this situation, and then we'll actually end up doing it, although we're not going to do it live right now. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically tell you guys everything about it that he told me, what he wants done out of it, all that kind of stuff. We'll take a look at the clip, and then you guys can see basically